Good morning, everyone. Sorry to be coming on a little bit late. We're all just a little bit out of sync here today with the snow day yesterday and getting ready for big events today at school. So I'm here though with a card. I'm going to show you another way to use our Spectrum ink pad. So the other day I did a video where I inked up the uninked Spectrum pad, and so when this comes, it has no ink in it, and you use your refills to fill in each of these 5 sections that you can see here with an ink color of your choice. You might want to do a range of blues. In my case, I chose to do a rainbow, and so with this rainbow I inked it up with Melon, Mambo, Calypso Coral, Daffodil Delight, Granny Apple, and Pool Party. And so I've got a really nice rainbow here. I've created a few images. I've made some cards showing that rainbow image here with the confetti falling, and so how you can stamp across the entire ink pad to get that look. I've got another one. I've got a piece just prepared. I haven't made a card with it yet, with the happy birthday stamped across that Spectrum pad as well. So it creates a really nice rainbow effect. You can also just use a section of it, maybe just use the blue and the green for some smaller images and get that effect. Today I'm going to show you though how to use this Spectrum ink pad without actually pushing it together. So when you wanted to get that rainbow effect, we would push these ink pads together, ink up our stamp, and stamp our image. But when we're storing it, we want to pull them apart so that these colors don't bleed together too much. And what I'm going to show you today is a way to take this ink pad with it completely separated, and we are going to actually just use it as a stamp on our page. So I'm centering this on my page, and I'm going to push down just pretty gently. You don't want too much, and lift. And as you can see, what I've got on here now is a rainbow. Now I realized that wasn't very centered, and oh, it did leak through quite a bit. So, oh, hi Janice! So I'm actually going to use that for some other project, and I'm going to try again and get that recentered. So I've got another piece of paper here, and so I'm just going to make sure that I come down a little bit lower this time when I'm inking that. And there we go. So we'll see what happens. There we go, much better. So I do kind of want this this image a little bit less than, oh, you know what, actually, now that I'm thinking about where I'm going to be putting bows and stuff, my first image may have been okay. Oh, actually, they're pretty much the same. Okay, it is a little bit challenging to center this. I guess if I had kind of done this and then flipped it over. We'll give it one last shot. I've got lots of paper here. So I do like to keep my cardstock pre-cut. Good morning, Danielle. I keep 2 kinds of cardstock pre-cut. I keep my thick Whisper White pre-cut so that I always have card bases ready to go just to grab. And I also keep a stack full of regular Whisper White cut at 4 by 5 1/4 because it's the perfect size for layering onto a card. And so I keep those just pre-cut beside my desk so that I can just grab them and go when I am designing. All right, so there is our Spectrum ink pad stamped fairly centered, not super centered on our card, but we're going to go with it. So I'm going to actually set that to the side now, and I've got a piece of vellum here that I cut just slightly larger than the Spectrum pad, so 2.5 by 4. And on this vellum, I am going to be using a sentiment, and I'm going to be using my Stays-On ink. The reason I'm using that is because the vellum can be a little bit of a slippery surface, and so the Stays-On ink is more of a permanent ink. And so I'm going to be able to stamp this on, let it dry, and know that it's not going to smudge on me and that it will dry on that non-porous surface. So this is a little bit of a different ink. I don't use my chamois to clean this ink off. I use special solvent to clean the Stays-On off afterwards. And we sell both the Stays-On ink and the solvent. And I would be careful if you're using photopolymer stamps that if you use the Stays-On ink with those, that you use this Stays-On solvent to wash it off, but then you get out some soap and water and actually wash your photopolymer stamps so that you remove the stays-on solvent from your photopolymer stamps, just to ensure that they have a longer life and don't get ruined by that stays-on solvent, because it is quite strong. So that I'm just going to set to the side. So I've used a little sentiment here from the Friendly Conversation stamp set. I just absolutely love both of these. They're great for Valentine's, great for just a friend who just needs a little bit of cheering up. Just beautiful, beautiful stamps. So we've got that. Now, normally I would just let this sit to the side and dry, but because of the interest of time, I am actually going to grab my heat tool and I'm going to heat dry this. So just give me a moment. It'll be a little bit loud. Oh, plug that in. All right, so there we go. This should be mostly dry now. I can see the word because is just a little bit wet still, but I saw my paper starting to curl, so I'm just going to give that a little moment to dry. And while I'm waiting on that, I'm going to grab our next materials, which is going to be a button out of the Tinted Faceted Buttons. These come in the 3 really nice shades here. I believe it's Flirty Flamingo, Grapefruit Grove, and oh, I can't remember what green that is. I'll have to look that up in the catalog later. But so yeah, the really nice orange, pinks, and greens. I'm going to grab one of the pink ones today. And this can be a little bit tricky, as what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to thread some of our baker's twine through there. And so I'm going to clean up that end so I don't have loose bits. That'll make it a lot easier for threading it through. And when I do this, I'm actually going to start from the front side on one. Oh, actually, no, I want to end up tying a bow on this one. So I'm actually going to, oh, here we go. This is really the hard part. There are some larger buttons in this pack, but that are a little bit easier to thread, but these are the smaller buttons. And there we go, success. So I got that through on one side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to be wrapping it around my card here, and I'm going to leave enough out of the front end of this button that I am going to be able to tie a bow with it afterwards. But I want to wrap this thread around a few times before I do that. I think twice should be good, and then I'm going to want to come through and have a bunch more to be able to tie another bow. There we go. So with this wrapped around, I am going to now thread this through the other side of my button. So it's fine that it's all loose while I'm doing this. The really nice thing about these buttons is that when you do go to tie a bow on this button, it's really going to tighten up your thread and give you a secure hold on the paper that you're tying your thread around. Okay. Sorry if you see the back of my head here, but I'm going to have to get in and get a closer look at this. Even with my glasses on, I'm having some troubles. All right, there we go. So sometimes it's good to have kids at home when you're doing crafting. They're way faster at threading that. Okay, now I'm going to kind of line this up where I want it. I think I want my button just a little bit off to the side. And I'm going to pull these two so that it's kind of tightened. Oops. It's okay if they crisscross. I actually like the crisscross look. So I'm going to crisscross that. And then I'm going to actually tie a knot in here first. Not an actual knot, just one kind of loop over. My hands are not working for me this morning. There we go. Do that. And then with just the one loop in there, it's actually going to hold it fairly tightly. And I'm going to tie a little bow. Oh. All right, sometimes when I tie bows like that, they kind of go sideways. So I'm going to do my good old bunny ears. When you do the bunny ears, I find that the bows stay the direction you want them a lot better. So 2 bunny ears and loop them around. It's also a little bit easier when you do a bow that way to adjust the ends of your bow and kind of finick with it until it looks exactly the size and shape that you want it to be. Okay, here we go. Almost there. So now it's just a lot of back and forth, pulling on the ears, pulling on the tails until it's exactly the size you want. And I'm going to keep these ends fairly long. I do want them to drape down the side of my card. There we go. And now to add this onto our card, we don't want to see any adhesive through our vellum, so I am going to be a little bit sneaky and kind of try and hide it behind the button and the thread. And I am also going to use these little mini glue dots that are a little bit more clear in color. And so I just stuck one onto the back behind the button. And I'm going to stick the other one onto the back behind where these threads are, so that that kind of masks, oops, that didn't quite go where I wanted it to. Pick that up and move it down. So these are going to do 2 things. They're going to hold our thread in place, and our thread is kind of going to hide them for us while we adhere this. So there we go. And, oh, good. Now I do notice that that button is also just kind of popping up off the page a little bit. So to hold it in place where I want it, I'm going to put another mini glue dot on the back of this. And that will hold that in place exactly where I want it. I'm going to train these threads to kind of fall down the side. And the final thing for this card is we're going to put it on a flirty flamingo background. And so I think I'm actually going to glue that one straight down. Often I would use some dimensionals to pop that up, but I think for this card we've got enough layers popping up. So I'm going to glue this one straight down using some liquid glue. Getting more messages from the schools. There we go. All right, so there is a quick and simple card. You could put really any saying on here, a happy birthday saying or anything, but having that nice rainbow, or you could do like an ombre effect in the background, just creates a very quick and easy card so that you can send that off to somebody. And Valentine's Day right around the corner, I'm going to be sending out a bunch of cards, and you know, all sorts of cards for my students as well as for my kids, and for family members and stuff. So it's nice to have these quick little cards that you can do a whole bunch of. So I hope you enjoyed the video. That's just one more way that you can use that Spectrum ink pad. We'll see you next Wednesday. Bye. Talk to you soon, Janice.